Welcome to Tiny Tigers episode 3. We're here joined by an absolute legend of the game, Simon Madden. If you don't know who he is, he's a one-man club, Essendon through and through, 378 games with 575 goals. Australian Hall of Famer, team of the century. Ask him about it. He's been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We've got...
I haven't got enough time to announce all of them. Hall of Fame.
We've got Col on as well. Col is our ruckman, so he's come on just for a bit of learning and try and get some good tips to use when we go and play the Roos this weekend coming. Pretty much, we're just gonna have a bit of a chat and go through everything. First of all, thank you very much for coming on, Simon. Pleasure to have you. Question number 1: how did you get into footy? What was your story to get to us speaking to you now?
No, good on you. Thanks, gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be here. I've actually played in England. So a long time ago, we played a couple of games over there. So in Australia, it was sort of those games were late October after our season. So we played Collingwood over there. We played Hawthorn over there. So Kevin Sheedy, my coach at that, or our coach at that time, was big on taking our game out to the world. So so I've been over there, and one of the great things about England and the United Kingdom is there's a lot of cricket grounds. So we've got plenty of places to play. So there's no problem about that. But your question, very simple. I grew up in a suburb of Melbourne, close to Essendon, called Airport West. I always laugh about that. So we have all these great names for suburbs like Caroline Springs and Broadmeadows, and some bloke bought a big piece of land west of the Essendon Airport and called it really imaginatively Airport West, just magnificent. So I grew up there, and obviously I couldn't, in grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, as we have in primary school, I wasn't very good at football. I couldn't catch it. I couldn't kick it. We used to have games at the lunchtime, and I'd be the last one picked. You'd have the 2 captains out the front, the best 2 footballers, and everybody else standing back, and one captain would go, I'll have him, and I'll have him, and I'd take turns, I'll have him, and I'd be at the back sort of hoping, and then there'd be the last 2 left, and it was me, big lanky me, and Dennis Muscat, who was a little bloke about 4 foot nothing. If he was an adult now, he was about 2 foot nothing then, and one would go, well, you have Madden and we'll have Muscat. In other words, no, you have Madden and we'll have Muscat. We go, look, we'll take Madden and Muscat because Muscat will make up for Madden, all right? That'll be it. Right. So I wasn't very good, but all my friends played football, and I wasn't very good at cricket. I'm okay with the ball now, but I'm not very good with something between me and the ball, like a bat or a tennis racket or a golf club. So I just wanted to play really wanted to play with my friends. So grade 4, I wasn't that good. Grade 5, I got better. Grade 6, I think I got second in the best and fairest in the comp or something like that. So I had a development like this, and also I was very big. I've always been big. So it was a case of we'll play the big bloke and see how we go. So it took me a while, but I got there. So and really enjoyed it, man. I've always loved football, and the camaraderie it goes with the team, and the, as I say, the struggle for the goal. So it was good. So that's how I started.
So was that the kind of way you got into rucking? Was it pretty much you're the big fella, stick him in the middle, and he can?
Yeah. Well, my first coach was a mad Geelong supporter. My dad was a mad Geelong supporter, so I was brought up in Geelong before I realised I lived in the Essendon area, and I was the only kid in school of 650 with a Geelong jumper, so that's what I chose. But the under-11s coach was a big Geelong fan, and Polly Farmer's a big name in the Geelong culture and the Geelong history, and he loved it. So he really analysed him and said, look, you're tall enough, we're going to talk about tapping the ball and body work and all that. So yeah, I was the tallest, so they threw me in the middle, and it's like being in the middle because it's where the ball is. So I said, if I'm playing well, I don't mind being in the forward line back then, but if I'm not playing well, be in the ruck, because then you can chase the ball around. Hopefully you can get a kick. So yeah, so basically he said, you're the big fella, you play in the ruck.
Can I ask, when you first got asked to join the Bombers, there's a story you can tell me if it's true or not. The coach at the time came to your place and spoke to your brother first. Is that right?
Yeah, no, you're right. So there's I have a brother, Justin, who's younger, He only didn't play a lot of games. He only played 332. He didn't play that many. and we had an older brother, Paul, and he was probably the best. He played under 19s with Essendon when I was 15, and he played in the grand final, had an elbow and broke his nose and his cheekbone, and he was in a rock and roll band at the time, and the rock and roll was sort of more important than the football. And so when he got this injury, and our father died when I was 13, he was 14, and Justin 10. So he didn't sort of have a guiding hand, and so we were, Mum was fantastic, but we didn't have a father figure at that stage. So Paul was umming and ahhing, and Des Cunningham was the coach that came in and wanted to talk him back into playing again the next season. And I was 15 and 10 months at this stage, late in the year. And so he turned around to me and said, "Oh, Simon, do you want to come and train with Essendon?" Now I'm 15. I was in would have been in year 10. I'm 15 and 10 months. What do you reckon I'm going to say? Would you like to come and train with Essendon? Of course I am. Of course. Yeah. So after the Christmas, I turned 16. I turned 16 between Christmas and New Year. I got picked up in a big white Merc in January to take me to training with sheepskin wool covers. I'd never seen this in my life. It was unbelievable luxury. And they took me to training, and I went, "Yeah, I like this." I had no idea. I never had to train before because I was the biggest bloke always picked. So I just used to turn up, maybe train a bit, turn up the games and play. And all of a sudden, I'm up with the Essendon Football Club, and all of a sudden I said, "Oh, this is real pro. This is really serious." And that was my first year in. I was very unusual. I was 16. I played that year. I played 16 games in the reserves and 6 out of the last 8 games in the seniors. So it was really strange. It couldn't happen there. So I was 16 and 17. I played for the school on Wednesday and Essendon on Saturday. So it's just bizarre. Like you tell people there, they go, but that's the way it was. You just you played, and I think my brother Justin talked about when I went to Essendon, I was probably very well prepared because when I was 15, I'd play under 17s. I'd play for the school on Wednesday, under 17s on Saturday morning, and open age Saturday afternoon. So I wasn't training, I was just playing 3 games a week. So you're getting a lot of game experience, a lot of game experience. And that maybe helped me when I went up to the big league.
How'd you find, I know when you're 15, 16, maybe mentally you don't prepare like you would when you're in your 20s or 30s. But how'd you find going from a Wednesday playing for your school to then playing senior footy on a Saturday? I mean,
it's huge difference. So you're playing, when you're playing at school, you're playing against kids. I know it's pretty big, of course, and then you're playing against men. So one of the great things about doing that is that you play at school, your form was really good. I mean, you were beating everybody, jumping over people, so you could still see your footy. You could still see your footy ability and go, yeah, it's there. Then on the weekend, you had to go, geez, I've got to do that against big bodies and grown men and getting hit in the back of the head and being abused by the crowd. Because, you never have a crowd at school footy, but you've got a crowd at AFL footy or VFL back then. So it was a really interesting combination because you could still back your skills and see that you had them. But then you had to think, well, I've got to apply these against the real thing. So no, it was very unusual, but I loved it. I loved it, and I always wanted more of it. Always wanted to play. The training's, footballers want to play. The training is just a means to an end. I always remember Lee Matthews said at one stage years ago that the great Hawthorn player and Collingwood coach, and he said, look, I'd play for nothing, but I wouldn't do all the other stuff for nothing. Training, all that. That's the stuff that really takes it out of you. Where the playing at the end of the week, that's what you look forward to. That's the great part of it. Yeah.
You hear that, right? Scratch match all the way.
Yeah.
And these boys want to play scratch match every Wednesday night of training.
Hang on, that's a heavy accent. Could someone translate for me, please?
I tell you what, I've been coach at the club for 5-6 years, and I still go, "What was that, Cole? What was that, mate?" I'm like, just nod and say, yeah.
Just nod, yeah.
Hang on, you can't hand a man a gross slander. I just can't try to come up with you. How's that? Will that do? I haven't had a practice. I'm not having a practice for. I just need. I need a couple of pints. A couple of pints, and I'll keep up with you. All right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good. Sounds good. A few pints, no daft.
Did you play with quite a lot of Irish people in the VFL, or was it not quite a?
We didn't have many recruits, international recruits back then. I actually did play for Australia against Ireland in the combined rules. That was back in the first year was 1984 when they'd played before, but it actually had been Gaelic footy. And 84 was the first time they combined the rules. And the best way I explain to people is that we have 2 goal posts and 2 point posts at 6 points through the middle and 1 point each side, and they have 2 uprights and 1 crossbar, and it's 3 points underneath and 1 point over the top. So you combine the 3, and you have combine the 2 and have 2 uprights, 1 crossbar, and 2 point posts. Now, have you got that? Because the umpires had no idea, you know. The goal umpires had 2, I think, what are those? 2 green flags for a goal, 2 yellow flags for an over, 2 red flags for a point, and 2 white flags for stop. We don't know what the score is. Hang on. But it was that was a great, and you know, like of course, being over in the UK, the Irish people, they were just terrible hosts. Of course, you know, they didn't want to drink, they didn't want to have a feed, they didn't want to talk footy, they didn't want to go. It was just fantastic. They just looked after us all the time, and back then they had a player, and it was very new for both Australia and Ireland, but it was 2 questions. If you know of Gary Ablett Senior, so someone like that in Australian rules who's just you know, an icon of great football. They had 2 questions. They'd say, "Now, what do you think of a game? And what do you think of Jack O'Shea?" And Jack O'Shea was the big name, like the Gary Ablett, you know, and he played against it. It was in his twilight years, but it was always, remember that. About 4 times I got that. What do you think of our game? And what do you think of Jack O'Shea? And it's just, it was. You know, I mean, that's one of the great things about football, is that you got to meet so many people, and we travel. I mean, Kevin Shetty, you know, our main coach, I had 4 coaches, but he coached us for the longest period. We played in America, we played in Ireland, we played in England, we played in Miami, we played in, I forget we played a game in Tokyo, just because, you know, the Olympics are on now, that reminds me. We played all around Australia, and he was one was saying, you can't wait for them to come to us. We've got to go to them. We've got to go to the world. So, so we had a great time. And I spent a little bit of time in Scotland. We were there a few years ago. I'll probably spend some time again there, maybe somewhere in 2035 when we're allowed out again. I'm not sure. We'll see. There we go.
Well, if you are, look us up, you get a game.
No. I'll thank you very much, but mate, this body, the spirit is willing, but the body is very, very weak. I've got a bad back. I'm about 2 inches shorter than I was 15 years ago. I've had an elbow recently arthroscoped. I've got, you know, all these, you know, bent. Hang on, no, that one's a good one, and that one's a good one. Yeah, so apart from 8, they're all good. They're all fine. You know, like, you know, the standard one is you get one of those.
Hey.
There you go. That's the way it is.
It's a bit like your knee, Chris.
Like my knee, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
So now, not about my question. So, you know, do I get, you know, quid pro quo top? So how is the game going over there? How is your league going, and how do people accept it over there?
I think we should go to Phil for that one. Phil's our club president, so he's got a good scoop on it.
Yeah, the game over here it's going pretty well. Obviously, COVID's had a major impact. There's several leagues around the UK. London are the only ones that play full 18-a-side because they've got the population and they've got the influx of Australians. The regional leagues tend to play 9 on a rugby field, which is where we're at. We used to play in the Northern English League. About 4 years ago, we transferred over to the Scottish League because the clubs are actually nearer to us, based up here in Newcastle. So first season was not too great. Then we really kicked in and came within 1 game of the grand final in the last full season we played. This season we're currently 1-2 with, as Roger said, a massive game coming up next Saturday. So it's getting the people in. Recruitment for ourselves has been pretty decent. I know some other clubs around the country tend to struggle. So it is ultimately a niche sport still over here. We've got pretty good backing from AFL Scotland, AFL England, and ultimately AFL Europe to spread the word. So Great Britain hosted the European Championships in 2018. So 2 pictures side by side down in London, which was quite a big event. Is an annual European Cup for the 9-a-side. So there is quite a lot going on over here.
Fantastic. No, that's great, because it's, I mean, you know, we're a bit biased down here in Australia. We think it's the best game in the world, you know. and where everybody else thinks their sport's the best game in the world. But we do find that once people get the hang of it, I mean, a lot of people, of course, just the actual the space you need, the size of the ground, and then being able to get access to it. I mean, you know, like in England, it's cricket first, and then you go and play rugby on a rugby ground. You don't go and mess up our cricket ground with this silly sport called Aussie Rules. But no, look, you know, we think it's good. And down here, of course, we've had a huge increase by opening it up to, you know, of course, women, and now we've got the AFL women's side. So the real interest is spreading right across Australia, even more so. So it's been, and one of the things, of course, about COVID is that not as many people are playing, but once, I think, you know, hopefully once we're out of this, you'll see a massive increase in the women and the girls, and also the young boys and young men playing, because it's become even a stronger part of our culture. It's fantastic. Yeah, really enjoyable. Apart from the injuries, but you know, don't tell people about the injuries.
I must say, every time we get a new bloke into the club, wherever they've come from, there's not many that say, I don't like it. They go, no. Oh, I didn't know this was here. It's just brilliant. We had a guy that played his first ever game last Saturday a week ago, and he's Polish, never seen footy ever, and he's absolutely thriving on it. It's only been a week, but still, he's absolutely loving it. He goes, I didn't know anything about this. You know, he's mad as a cut snake, but he's loving it. And everybody that comes in, there's not many that go, don't like this. They all go, oh, I'll try it. I don't know what's going on, but I love it. That's
great, Chris. That's good. Now, I must ask you two, out of the four there, how did you pick up that accent? That doesn't sound very Scottish to me.
I'm from Adelaide, mate. I'm an Adelaide fella.
That's how long have you been over?
It's actually Scottish.
No one is.
No, that's right. I've been here too long now. Sorry, more. I might hear that. I've been in here 11 years now.
Oh, fantastic! Good on you, mate. Well, keep pushing the barrow. Keep getting people involved. That's great. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm PE teacher at the local school around the corner, and they from upper school, so year 3, 4, 5, and 6. They all touch Aussie Rules balls at the end of the season. We have Aussie Rules sessions with me, so it's spreading the word there, and they're loving it as well. Even the kids are loving it. So I wouldn't get the opportunity to see it.
It's funny. I mean, I always say the world game soccer or football, but we call it soccer, the world game. The take-up skills are very, very easy, because you just put a round ball in front of the top end skills are unbelievable, but the take-up skills, just put a round ball in front of a kid and he accidentally kicks it and off it goes. Yeah. But the take-up skills for AFL is actually the hand-eye coordination. As being a PE teacher, trying to get them to drop the ball and kick it. It's always it's not an easy one for them to take up, but you get that basic skill, and then people get really interested in it.
Well, even these two boys here, Hodgie and Cole, they're still trying to learn it.
Keep going, boys. Keep going. The basic trick is, can you bounce it and have it come here, because that's the basic skill. If you can control the ball with the standard bounce, that's a really good start. Always.
I said to this Polish fella on Saturday, I said, look, he wanted to know about bouncing. I said, mate, let's not talk about that right now. It's just one thing at a time. You might get a chance to bounce it anyway, but I tell you what, he wanted to have a crack.
But it looks good. It looks good, doesn't it? Run, like the Irish fellas when they run down there and kick it back for themselves. Excuse me. For a lot of people, watch how I was. We were over. This was years ago. We were over on after an end of year footy trip. We were in America, and we went with Peter Light, who'd played a handful of games with Essendon, and we went back to a little town out of Chehalis, out of Seattle called Chehalis, and he'd been an exchange student there. So we went out there and we were kicking the foot. We got an American football, bit pointier. There's 5 of us, and all football, and we were just kicking it around for having a bit of fun. It doesn't take much to get, but once you get understand the pointiness, you can get the backspin pretty easily. Well, we're having a kick, and they came out from recess at this school, and they came over and watched us, and they couldn't believe what they were saying. And one of the kids came over and said, "Hey, you guys, can you teach our punter how to kick? Where did you get that from?" Like they just get really excited about it. And of course, you sort of say, "Oh, we play, Australian rules football." And a lot of people go, "What? Right? What? Rugby? No. Oh, soccer? No." And you try and explain it to them. You have to get the video out. If you get the video out, oh look, this is me taking a really good mark, and this is me. You get that stuff out, but yeah, it takes a bit of practice. Practice makes perfect, as they say. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Going back
I
was going to say, going back to kind of those rule stuff, in your kind of playing days, you obviously knew kind of most of the people around you and stuff, but who would you compare yourself to in nowadays, or who would give you a run for your money now in the ruck, for example?
The ruck, Maxi Gorn in at Melbourne, I think, is a fantastic ruckman. Paddy Wright is just a great tap ruckman, and I had a little bit to do with his training, so I'm going to say that. But no, there's a lot of good ruckmen. I think people look. I have shrunk a little bit, but people look at me and go, "How in the world could you be a ruckman?" Because I was 6'5" and 198 centimetres. Well, the best way to explain it. So me at 19, and I look at Nick Cox, who's playing on the wing for Essendon in his first year, right? So he's wingman. And I keep saying he's taller than me, he's faster than me, he's more skilled than me, he's better below his knees than me, he's better on his left and right. The only thing is at 19 I had more games and I was a little bit heavier. But that's the only thing he'll catch up with. So just to say that, someone my size, but I think the Collingwood ruckman, you look at, you just watching the Bulldogs, I really like our Essendon ruckman at the moment. I think the young fella's really good. There's lots of, but I think for me, tap ruckman Paddy Ryder and Max Gawn as a leader in a ruckman too. I wouldn't be a ruckman there. Somebody'd say I play in the midfield. I said, mate, I'm not that fast. I'd be a slow halfback flanker these days. That's if you're lucky, So it's but look, I've always said it's a really important. I mean, I'm biased, but it's a really important role. For me, it was Sam Newman, who played 300 games for Geelong, and was a very, very much a media person here, who's getting older, and he's unfortunately his wife died early this year, but he's was on the Footy show, which was a big show in Victoria here. He was my ruck coach, and when he came to Essendon as ruck coach, he really showed me real technique that is learnable and teachable and transferable, and it changed my view of ruck work. I used to just think you stood opposite each other, ran really hard at each other, jumped and hoped, and so, but he sort of said, excuse me, he said, come in from an angle, jump in early, fend off with one hand. So you jump with one knee, your right knee, you hit with your left hand, fend off. You can't put a straight arm, it's a free kick, and you take the space of the ruckman. And if you do that, you've got a better chance. And when he did that, my ruck work just improved immensely. And excuse me again, he used to, because when I played against him, he was older. I was younger, fitter, more athletic, could jump higher, and he kept getting the ball. And I didn't, nobody ever showed it to me. And then Polly Farmer, these are big names in football, Polly Farmer. John Nichols had done it, he'd done it, and he passed it on to me. And I've just played against so many good ruckmen my time over the years that you could see others who'd learned how to do it really well. But it was, really, really important skill to have. I think some of the young blokes now are learning it. Most midfield coaches aren't ruckmen, so they don't you actually do need a specialist ruck coach. And I've always said to ruckmen, you do need to practice every session, even if it's just 10 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes of style. And it's, the old one is a hard body and soft hands. So you go hard at the body, but you've got to be able to, and a lot of times if you just jump with your right knee, right shoulder, right hand, it's all just hard. So it's one great big jump. But if you jump with your right side and hit with your left hand, your shoulders are a bit straighter. You push the person off the line of the ball, you've got more control. So you can actually hit the ball in a lot more directions rather than just going forward with a tap. So it's a specific thing to be working on. So when I'm over there next in 2056 or whenever, I'll come and give you a couple of lessons, all right?
Done. Cole, do you like?
I was going to say you're taking notes, Cole.
I'm really thinking. Yeah, I think we need some other boys in the Tigers to start taking on a bit of rucking.
Yeah, poor Cole's pretty much a lone tiger. I showed him before a game, Cole. Just what I want. I say right in the middle, you're ruckling. And if Hodgie's our full forward, Hodgie, you're full forward to lock, give Cole a rest. Hodgie, you did the ruck down the forward pocket, if anywhere. And then there's you want to go down back. So he's a bit of a lone man, unfortunately, Cole.
Yeah.
No, but well done, Col. You're carrying the team on your shoulders. Don't worry about that. I understand that completely. But it's
plenty have come and tried it, and they just don't ever seem to stick around. So I'm not going to complain, because it means I get minutes on the pitch. Because if I was playing anywhere else, I don't think I'd be as productive.
But it's good. But the other thing too, mate, don't forget it's the tough area, because it's the only part of the game where you're legally allowed to run straight at the other bloke and hit him. Any other time, free kick virtually. So that's where you're at.
I like leading with the knee. The knee is fun, leading, and then just that hit. I take a great enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, and you can actually there's a tricks about where you turn your body, and you can actually lead with your shoulder. And well, I didn't say this, and with your elbow. No, sorry, lead with your forearm. You just protect yourself. You don't know. It's not pointed. It's just a forearm, and you protect yourself. So you keep that bloke away from the ball. But as I said, yeah, it's very hard to do it on a computer in a lounge room. But
yeah. Actually, speaking of elbows, I've just got one little thing here I was going to ask about. In the '84 grand final, we had a bit of a scuffle, didn't you? You threw a few handbags.
We had in '84. I got reported for striking the opposition ruckman, right? And what had happened, I wasn't doing much at all. And I thought,
you touched him.
So he grabbed me, and now the footage shows me throw one punch and miss, throw another one and miss, and throw a third one and miss. And so, the next fact, it swapped two cameras. So I did actually throw one and miss. I threw another one slightly connected, threw another one they caught, missed. The cameras kept swapping back. But if you show the one camera, I actually hit him twice. Not really well, but I do hit him. But he had hold of me, but he could see the umpire over my right shoulder watching. So he wasn't throwing anything back.
Yeah.
And I remember after the end of the game, we had, lots of different trainers. And we had Nick Neofito was our boxing coach. So we did, and boxing was really good for you. If you had any sore legs, you didn't have to do any running. It's fantastic for your aerobics and your awareness and all that. And they wouldn't let us box against each other. It was always sparring, because we'd start to, very quickly we get too serious. Yeah. So it was always sparring. But I can remember he came in after that game and he just looked at me and went, "Oh, sorry." So I think he could just see that all the boxing he'd ever done with me had never paid off a bit. No, but it was good. But I got off too. And that's the other thing. I was 378 games, never suspended.
Wow.
But if you play 378 games and say you never hit anybody, you're lying.
Lying. Yeah, exactly.
But for me, I know who I hit. I could have a list of who I hit. Where Ronnie Andrews was a big bad player, played for Essendon. He's got a list of who he didn't hit. It's a much shorter list. It's a much shorter list. I had some good. Look, that was a good thing about it. I'm an old footballer now, and you look back and you reminisce. But there's some, great memories, great friendships, great memories, great time, and some good money in it. I mean, you don't make the money you did now, but some good money to pay the bills as well. So it worked out all right. Yeah.
Well, do you want to go ahead with that question again, and then I can try and fix it all together?
Well, yeah. No, as I say, Simon, you've already kind of answered the question that the DB coach wanted me to ask you, which was just how tough Ronnie Andrews was. So,
Ronnie Andrews. So for the people who, so Ronnie Andrews is one of those blokes who was just really, really tough. Now he said there was always a bit of bluff in it, but I always tell the story about the best way. You can bleep, there's going to be a swear word in this, so you can bleep it out if you want to. But the best one is, and I wasn't there, but it's a really good friend was when Clint, his son, who is about 50 now, I suppose, 45 or something. He was about 2.5, 3, and Stan Carey is a bloke I know was out with Ronnie. Anyway, and it's one of those houses where the front door opens to the hallway and the main bedroom's door is right beside it, sort of. I think it's a sort of one of the standard houses in Australia. Anyway, Clint had climbed out of bed and gone to go into the bedroom. Of course, the door was shut. So he'd fallen asleep wrapped up in a blanket right in front of the front door and in front of the bedroom door. And Ronnie and Steve have come home late one night. And there's these blankets on the ground. And Ronnie's gone, "What's that doing there?" And kicked the blanket. And clearly Clint 2.5 in the head. Yeah, just kick that away, kid. And Clint's come up from out underneath the blanket and gone, "What the fuck you do that for, man?" So he's got the genes of his dad. That's the point of that story. Is everybody else would have cried. His son 2.5 just said, "What did you do that for?" There's the toughness genes that Ronnie had. You know.
It's class.
So, he was seriously, I think, and what he used to do too. Sheeds back, now there's so much media. Sheeds had put the team poster up of every other team. Now you can look up the teams all online, but he always put the team poster to make sure you knew every player on the side, because we used to have huge lists back then. And of course, we'd have our team poster. So Ronnie, all the blokes would be oiled up and pumping their muscles out to make sure they look good. Ronnie'd mess up his hair, and when the photo was taken, me going. So you'd be going like the team photos, going, "Oh yeah, oh look at Ronnie." He built up on it. He built up on it to make sure that everybody thought he was rotten, rotten Ronnie Andrews, as the nickname was. And I'd seen there was there's a few games. If he had done now what he did then, you'd just miss a lot of games. You'd miss a lot of games.
We'll go for one more question, Rog. Have you got any more?
Question?
I'm sure you've got loads and loads and loads, but try and keep it down to one.
Okay, I'll pick my best one. I reckon. How much when you lost in '83? How much did that spur you and the team on for '84, '85? Did it have much of a mental spurge? Keep you going. Not going to happen again, and then bang bang 2 in a row. Yeah,
it's a very good point. So for the history books, we played Hawthorn in '83 and were beaten then by a record score. Now, luckily, it's been passed twice, so people don't bring it up now. But back then, and so you have to live. You have to live with that. So you've got another season, and so and my recollection is I don't reckon Sheeds used it a lot, but he made us stay on the ground. I think we were one of the first teams, not the only team, one of the first teams to actually stay on the ground and watch them all get their medals.
Yeah.
So that's a real spur in itself. And then after to say, well, we weren't good enough. And the reserves actually won a premiership that day. And we had a big function that night. And Sheeds got up there and told everybody, and some guests had been paying lots of money to be part of that function. And Sheeds got there and said, "I don't want to see anybody smile. Anybody smiling, you won't be in the team. We can't accept that." And a lot of people got in and said, "Gee, it was harsh." And I remember saying to my wife, Mary, going, "Yeah, I thought he's going to be a bit harsher." So he went real hard. So, and then he mentioned it then, and I think at the start of training at the next season, he just said, "Well, do we want to go through that again or not? So what are we going to do?" And I think we had a really good bunch of players, and I think you can do it individually, but you have to do it individually, but you have to do it as a group and say, well, what do we want to do? What are we prepared to do to go the next step?
Yeah.
And it's a bloody hard thing. A high level sport, watching the Olympics at the moment, you see a lot of great, great people achieving, but you don't see how hard it is to get there and all the stuff you've got to do. So it was a real mindset that next year. And we like Hawthorn were a really good side. It was a great rivalry at that period. So we never knew if we were good enough. And then in that final, we did show it. But I always remember I think it was the second semi where they beat us and went into the grand final and we lost and had to go prelim. And we were 1 point down and a player got the ball and kicked the goal, I think, to make it 7 points with about 10 seconds to go. And we could have been heartbroken. And we went in Sheeds went in, we could have just been devastated. And I can't remember exactly all the words he said, but I know in the end he said, "Look, they're the best team. We know they're the best team. And we're that far from it.
Mm.
And we can make that change. What are we going to do to make that change the next week?" And of course we did. So, but I think you should never lose enjoyment of sport, whether it's at a kids level, adult level, or elite level, whatever it is. But it's that what are you prepared in certain situations? What are you prepared to do? What are the sacrifices you got to make for yourself? And that's the like of extra train. And that group, I remember that group because we were going through the semi-professional time. And at one stage, and I think in that era, most of us still had jobs, although were hard to do, and would train after 3 or 4 times a week. And I remember we'd have Wednesdays off and players would go, "No, organised without the coaches, right? We're all training here tomorrow night, Tuesday night, next training Thursday. So we're all training here tomorrow night, okay?" And you'd sort of go, "Well, yeah, I have to," because the blokes are saying you have to. That's what we have to do. So it's always that little bit extra. And I always say to anybody playing sport, the footballers I talk to, I say, well, what's the bit extra you're doing? And I said, I can't tell you what it is, but is it, you got to work out what you need, because if you're doing what everybody else does, you get what everybody else gets. And that's, that's fair. That's the way the world's not fair, but it's fair in that instance. So I needed, when I was a kid, I needed to do so much more weights because I was so skinny run. And then you have to work on your handball. You have to work on your right side. You have to work on your fitness. Is it strength? Is it flexibility? What's the thing that you could put 10, 15 minutes extra into a training to take you just above everybody else? Yes, and that's what we had to do. And we did. In a whole lot of areas, we did that. I think that stuck with me that, if you want to be good at something, you have to, pay the price isn't the right word, but you have to put the hours in. If you want to be a good muso, you want to be a good dancer, you want to be good in theatre, you want to be good in sport, you want to be good in business, whatever it is, you have to put the hours in. And I think it was Seinfeld got up and his old college. Apparently, his old college got him back to talk, and he said, "No, I'm not going to get up and talk." And they wanted to do a big speech at the end of the year. And he said, "Look, I don't want to do it." But he, being a comedian, of course, he did it the right way. He said, "You got to do it." And he got up there, said hello to everybody, and said, "Do the work," and then went away. So in all the stuff he could have said, he just said, "Do the work." That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do in sport. You got to do the work. And they talk about, these days they talk about have faith in the process, because if you do the process and work it and work it and work it, under pressure, those skills will come out. The things you practice will work. And you look at all the good sports people, and they don't get there by accident. I mean, there's a lot of talent, but talent's the starting point. Everybody's got talent when they go into elite sport. What do you do to make the most of that talent, and what do you do to go above the talent and above what everybody else is doing? Yeah, gentlemen, written, spoken, and authorised by Simon Madden. Okay.
I'll use that. I'm going to use that for the Roos game pre-game. Thanks, mate.
That's true. Do the work. Do the work. Do the work.
It's spot on. It's just the extra. I always call it the extra 1%ers.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, it's the little things. People forget it's the little things. I mean, do you practice, like we used to practice, nobody used to practice smothering, and we practice it as an art. We were doing full body contact tackling on Thursday nights, which nobody would do. But now there's a set list of 45 feet, 43, which actually with COVID, it's less this year. And we'd just be doing full body tackling on Thursday nights, and people go, "What are we doing here? We might lose somebody," but you still did it. You did it, So, let's do the work.
That's fantastic.
I think that's a good point to kind of finish on. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. I know you're probably dying to get away and have a beer and celebrate Essendon's win that's just happened. But yeah, if you're ever over next time, I think you said it would be 2050 odd water. If you want to come, you're more than welcome to come and have a little drink and whatever with the Tigers, and you'd be more than welcome.
Yeah, good on you, gentlemen. No, good luck. Good. Thanks for the time. I mean, I'm always interested in people who are promoting the game elsewhere. So good luck with what you're doing. Make sure you enjoy it, work hard, have fun, and I don't like saying this, go Tigers. No, I don't say that.
I've accepted it now, mate. I've accepted it now.
All the best. Good on you guys. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed our podcast, please drop a like and share it around if possible. Remember, you can find us on Twitter at TineTeesARFC, on Instagram at TineTeesTigersAFL, Facebook, TineTeesTigers, and also our website is www.tineteestigers.co.uk. Thanks again. Cheers.